There was a case I wanted to go back and explain for you. Here. The Shaykh says, قال الكستلي في حاشيته على التفتزاني شارح العقيدة. Al-Kastali said in his commentary of At-Taftazani's explanation of this creedal document, ما نصه, quote, قوله, when At-Taftazani said, لا جاز إطلاق كل ما يقدر هو عليه من الأعراض أي عليه تعالى. So if you remember, one of the arguments of the Maturidis that Al-Khaliq means Al-Mawsufu bil-Khalq, the one attributed with Khalq, and it doesn't mean Al-Qadir ala al-Khalq, the one who has power over Khalq. So it means to them, creator means to them the one attributed with creation, that means creating. And it doesn't mean the one who has power over creation. They said, if this meant the one who has power over creation with a small c, then it would be valid to call him, to name him after anything he has power over. So I think that wasn't clear. So that's their argument. Let's say what their argument is. This is their statement. They say, if it were valid to say Al-Khaliq, creator, or the creator, means Al-Qadiru ala al-Khalq, the one who has power over creation with a small c, then it would be valid to name him after any property he has power over. Then it would be valid to name him after any property over which he has power. That's their argument. So Al-Kastali gives examples. فَيُقال أسود بمعنى القادر على السواد. So then that would mean that it would be valid to call Allah Aswad, and the meaning would be the one who has power over Sawad. Wa Abyad, and it would be valid to call Allah Abyad, and it would mean بمعنى القادر على البياض. It would mean the one who has power over Bayal. And it would be valid to call him Katib and Mutaharrik. I'll come back to that. So Aswad means black. That's an adjective. And Sawad is blackness. That's a property. Abyad means white as an adjective, a descriptive name. And Bayal means whiteness. So translating would come out as, they're saying if it's valid to call Allah, to explain Allah's name, Al-Khaliq, the creator, as Al-Qadiru ala al-Khalq, the one who has power over the creation with a small c, then it would be valid to call him Al-Aswad, the black, with the meaning of the one who has power over blackness, and Al-Abyad, the white, with the meaning of the one who has power over whiteness. Wa Katib, and writer, with the meaning of the one who has power over writing. And Mutaharrik, moving. That's an adjective though, not a verb. And then the meaning would be the one who has power over motion, etc. ولا شك في بطلانه. And there is no doubt about the invalidity of this. So I think this was not clear. So I want to try to make it clear for you, inshallah. Okay. So in Arabic you have this adjective, Al-Khaliq, here. The root letters are Kha, Lam, Qaf, the blue letters. So the rule is an adjective needs to be derived from a source noun. That source noun then would be Khalq, Kha, Lam, Qaf, here. So what are the Maturidis saying? They are saying Al-Khaliq means the one who has this attribute, the attribute of Khalq, not the attribute of Qudra, attribute of Khalq. Qudra meaning power. What are the Ash'ari saying? They're saying Al-Khaliq means Al-Qadir, the powerful one, Ala al-Khalq, the one who has power over Khalq, creation. And creation here means something with a beginning. So then for the Ash'aris, Khalq here means something that has a beginning. Creation, small c. So the Maturidis are saying, do you Ash'aris know what you're saying? What you're saying is basically that the Khaliq is named after something he created, not named after an attribute of his. We're saying he's named after an attribute of his. You're saying he's named after a creation of his. So to you, Al-Khaliq means the one who has power over something created. So this something created in this case has the letters Kha, Lam, Qaf, Khalq. And you're saying it's valid then to use the adjective of fa'il, the doer's adjective. So Khaliq is a doer. You're saying it's valid to use this doer's adjective, this doer's name, for something that's not his attribute. That's what the Ash'aris are saying. Aren't the Ash'aris saying that the attributes of doings are not eternal attributes confirmed for Allah? Yes, they are. So they're saying, then why then it's going to be impossible to say he's called then Al-Aswad. Al-Aswad with the meaning of Al-Qadir ala-Sawad, meaning we take this creation, which is Sawad, blackness, and then we take the root letters, Sin, Waw, Dal, and then we use the descriptive name that comes from these root letters. That's going to be the word Aswad. Aswad is the descriptive name that comes from these root letters. So why it would be invalid to call him Al-Aswad, and the meaning would be the one who has power over Sawad, and to call him Al-Abyad, and then the meaning would be the one who has power over Bayab, etc., etc., etc. Then you could name him after any property that he creates. That's the meaning of this statement here. That's what Al-Kastali is clarifying. Al-Kastali is clarifying At-Taftazani's statement. At-Taftazani explained An-Nasafiyyah. An-Nasafiyyah is talking about Takween, which is existence creating. That's an eternal attribute of Allah, according to the Maturidis. So, under this topic of explaining this attribute, this point came up. So, At-Taftazani made this point. He said, لَجَازَ إِطْلَاقُ كُلِّ مَا يَقْدِرُ هُوَ عَلَيْهِ مِنَ الْأَعْرَاضِ. So, one of the scholars did a commentary on At-Taftazani's explanation. His name is Al-Kastali. So Al-Kastali elaborated. He explained what the explainer meant. And that's what all of what I just explained for you. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. وهو غير المكون عندنا, and it, creation with a capital C, is not the creation according to us with a small c. According to us means according to the Maturidis. SharH, the explanation. التكوين غير المكون عند الماتريدية. Creation with a big C is not the creation with a small c. عند الماتريدية, according to the Maturidis. Yani, or I could say it this way. Creating is not the created thing according to the Maturidis. That's a very clear sentence, I think. And there's no problem with saying it that way, except that I'm trying to make you see how they had such a close difference. لأن الفعل يغاير المفعول بالضرورة, because the doing is different from what's done necessarily. كالضرب مع المضروب, like a strike with who was struck or what was struck. A strike with the struck, like a strike with the struck. Yani the strike is one thing, the struck is something else. The strike is the doing, the struck is the done. والأكل مع المأكول, and the eating with the eaten. The eating is the doing, and the eaten is the done. فالضرب غير المضروب. So, فإن الضرب غير المضروب. The strike is indeed different from the struck. والأكل غير المأكول, and the eating is indeed other than the eaten. What does this mean? Okay, so you have to understand here some SharH, which is some people call morphology. This is the science of how a source goes from one form to another form. So I wish I had my other pencil here. It would just be easier to write for you. I'm going to try to show you something. Let me say in English like this. Maybe this will be easiest. Okay, so I hope this is legible for you. Let's assume this word doing is a source noun. A noun that's a source for derivatives. What do I derive from a source noun? I derive past tense verbs. So I'd say did, and future tense verbs. So I'd say will do, and command verbs like do, and adjectives, descriptive names like doer. That's a descriptive name. Or like done. That's a descriptive name. Doer is the descriptive name for the actor, and done is the descriptive name for what's acted upon. Okay, that's all clear. What you need to know is sometimes you can call the done thing a doing. Sometimes you can call the done thing a doing. This is why there's an issue here. That's why I'm translating creation in two different ways. Sometimes creation means creating, that's doing. And sometimes creation means created, that's done. Or for example, you can say, God is attributed with qadar. That's correct. And then this means this is his managing or his management. Qadar, that's his attribute. And you could say, this is qadar, and you mean this is destiny. Yani, this is the created outcome. So you're referring to the done, yani, the maqdur as the qadar. You're calling the maqdur the qadar. You're calling the done the doing. This happens frequently. Like even the word done, you might call it a doing. So you might say, what is this doing of yours? So it means this done thing. So basically, Mukawwan means created. Takween means creating. Takween is actually the name of the act. The Ash'aris are saying the takween is the Mukawwan. They're saying the doing is the done thing. The Maturidis are saying no, the doing is not the done thing. If the doing were the done thing, then you'd be saying that Allah is a doer without a doing. So this is the meaning of what Al-Maturidi says. وَهُوَ غَيْرُ الْمُكَوَّنِ عِنْدَنَا. It is not the created according to us. Yani, creation is not created according to us. So let me repeat the explanation. The explanation is that takween, which is a source noun, and a source noun in a literal sense is the name of the act. It is the name of the act. Yani, how do we even know it's the source? What makes it the source? Is there a reason? There is a reason it's the source. There's, according to the Bisris, there's a mental reason that it's the source. This is the strong saying. The mental reason it's the source is because it refers merely to the act without any addition. So it's just the name of the act without any addition. Like, what's an addition? An addition is an act in some time, or an act with who performed it, or an act with who received it, or an act by way of a tool, or an act done in some place. So all of those are derivatives. Out of all these related words, one of them is the one that doesn't have anything extra. So the one that doesn't have anything extra, that proves that it is the source mentally, that proves that it is the source for the other ones. So takween is one of those words. It's a source noun. It doesn't have the meaning of time. It doesn't have the meaning of an actor. It doesn't have the meaning of a receiver. It is merely the name of the act or doing. So takween does mean creating, ing. Really, takween, yani creating, works well for the word takween. And creation works well for the word takween. And according to the Maturidis, created does not work for the word takween. According to the Ash'aris, creating does not work here for the word takween. So he says the takween is not the created, according to the Maturidis. This is the explanation. Or it's not the creation with a small c, according to the Maturidis. Because the doing, yani the mere doing, without consideration of anything else, is different from the done. Because the done is a derivative. Because the done considers the doing with something else. Bi-darura, necessarily. So created, it doesn't mean creating. Created doesn't mean creating. But takween, that's the name of the act. It means creating, etc. Then he talks about the examples, but I think it's clear. So if you have a question, ask me, please. قال التفتزاني ما نصه. التفتزاني said, quote, ولأنه لو كان أي تكوين نفس المكون لزم أن يكون المكون مخلوقا مكونا بنفسه ضرورة أنه مكون بالتكوين الذي هو عينه. At-Taftazani says, had the takween been the Mukawwan, had creation been, yani with a big C, the very creation, yani the creation itself with a small c, had creation been creation itself, created that is, لزم أن يكون المكون مخلوقا مكونا بنفسه ضرورة أنه مكون بالتكوين الذي هو عينه. Then it would be binding that the creation which is created would be created by itself because it is the creating. So this really goes back to the Arabic. It's stronger in Arabic. So this is a creedal case that's very strongly linked to the Arabic language in an exceptional way, more than some other cases. ضرورة أنه مكون بالتكوين الذي هو عينه. Because had the takween been the mukawwan, then it would have been mukawwan by itself. He's saying, had the takween been the mukawwan, then it would have been mukawwan by itself because it is the very takween. فيكون قديما مستغنيا عن الصانع. So then the mukawwan, the created thing, which is the creating, would have been eternal. And if it were eternal, then it would have been independent of the maker. وهو محال, and that's impossible. So this right here is the meaning of what some scholars like Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani said. They said that taking, and I'm paraphrasing, taking the Maturidi position and saying that the takween is an eternal attribute, and saying that the takween is an eternal attribute is further from implying a beginningless chain. Saying that the takween is an eternal attribute is further from implying a beginningless chain. Saying the takween is created is closer to arguing for a beginningless chain. ويلزم أيضا ألا يكون للخالق تعلق بالعالم سوى أنه أقدم منه. And it would be binding by this also that the creator would be irrelevant to the world other than being prior to it. وقادر عليه من غير صنع وتأثير فيه. And it implies, it's binding from this that the creator is irrelevant to the world other than being prior to the world and having power over it, but not making it. Not making it and not affecting it. Having power over it without affecting it. ضرورة تكونه بنفسه. Because the world would have been Mukawwan created, and the Mukawwan would have been the Takween, according to those who say the Takween is Mukawwan. وهذا لا يوجب كونه خالقا. And then this doesn't necessarily mean, or it doesn't dictate that God is the creator. This meaning would not dictate that God is creator. وَالْعَالَمَ مَخْلُوقًا, and it doesn't dictate that the world is a creation. فَلَا يَصِحُّ الْقَوْلِ بِأَنَّهُ خَالِقُ الْعَالَمِ وَصَانِعُهُ. And then it wouldn't be valid to say he is creator of the world and maker of the world. Okay, so I think all this talk is very advanced. Maybe is still over the heads of some of you, even though you've been listening to the knowledge for a while. And partly because of lack of strength in Arabic language. What's most important here is understanding the base, which I think you have. And what the Shaykh is doing here is going into extensive arguments. He is explaining the creed of Nasafi, but this creed could still be explained. Yani, this explanation of our Shaykh could still be briefer. In fact, Shaykh Sami summarized this explanation, rahimahullah. So, right now, we're reading some probably could be called advanced arguments about this case. It even crossed my mind just to skip some lines here. But I'm trying to give you everything. That's really, really my goal. But sometimes it's not appropriate. Sometimes it is necessary to skip some things. And even if you as the learner don't want anything skipped, still would be beneficial to skip some things. The Shaykh says, وَالْمَحْظُورُ الَّذِي اتَّفَقَ الْفَرِيقَانِ. And what is prohibited? According to what both groups agreed to. أي الأشعرية والماتريدية, meaning the Ash'aris and the Maturidis. على بطلانه هو جعل المكون قديما أزليا. They both agree to the invalidity of deeming the created thing eternal. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. والإرادة صفة لله تعالى أزلية قائمة بذاته تعالى. And will is an attribute of God. Exalted is He, eternal, existing by His being. Exalted is He. الشرح أن الله تعالى يحدث الحادثات بإرادة. The explanation is that God, exalted is He, makes events occur by will. لا من طريق الإيجاب بذاته. Not merely because He exists. Not merely because He exists. Creations don't occur because God exists. That would mean that God is a type of thing that creates, like how fire is hot, like how fire is a burning substance. So believing in Allah like that is blasphemy. وقالت الفلاسفة إن الله تعالى موجب بالذات لا فاعل بالإرادة. Maybe it's supposed to be mujid here, mujid. I'm not going to look in my copy though. The philosophers said that God, exalted is He, is an event creator by His self, not a doer by will, wal ikhtiyar, and choice. بل لزم من وجود الله وجود العالم. Rather, according to them, it is necessary by God's existence that the world would exist. فَلِذَلِكَ الْعَالَمُ أَزَلِيٌّ مَعَ اللَّهِ. They said, therefore, the world is eternal with God. So that's Ibn Taymiyyah's creed. And that's an advanced Wahhabi's creed. One who studied the words of Ibn Taymiyyah and he understood. And then he's going to select who he tells it to. وَهَذَا الْمَذْهَبُ ظَاهِرُ الْبُطْلَانِ. And this way, this school, this position is obviously invalid. لكن كيف راجع هذا الأمر على من كانوا ينتسبون إلى الإسلام من الفلاسفة? However, how did this issue circulate amongst those who are affiliated with Islam amongst the philosophers? Yani, some people were philosophers but affiliated with Islam, meaning they're not attributed to another religion. they are thought of as Islamic philosophers, and their real case is that they are philosophers, not Muslims. But they are Islamic philosophers. So Islamic here doesn't mean Muslim. It means affiliated with Islam. So how would someone who's affiliated with Islam not recognize the invalidity of an eternal creation? مثل ابن Sina, like Ibn Sina. So there's a footnote here. According to the philosophers, the world is eternal. And despite that, they say God made it exist. It's beginningless, but God made it exist. With the meaning, according to them, their explanation of this is that God's existence dictated the existence of the world. And Ibn Taymiyyah agreed with them because he says God's will is something eternal but happens in intervals, meaning that he wills from time to time, meaning that for every event he wills another will, but that he had been willing in eternity into everlastingness. This is Ibn Taymiyyah's creed. And what this leads to is that there never ceased to be something created with God, eternally and everlastingly. So that's case of لازم المذهب مذهب لأنه بين. Implication of the statement is what he actually believes. The implication of the statement is what he actually believes, because it's obvious. The Shaykh says, and this is a blasphemous conviction. Or the commentator, whoever put the footnote, doesn't cite Shaykh here. Some of these footnotes are from Shaykh's dictation. Some of them are explanatory footnotes. This is a blasphemous conviction without doubt, because it is contradictory to what God said. Huwa al-awwal, he is the first. That means he is the only one who exists without a beginning. That's the third ayah of Surah Al-Hadid. And it is contrary to the hadith of God's messenger. That means God was, and there wasn't anything else. And this is settled to the Wahhabis, because they follow Ibn Taymiyyah like a shadow follows a person. But they did oppose him in some cases. Like how they disagreed with Ibn Taymiyyah deeming it good that if a man's leg was inflicted with khadir or khadar, that he should say, Ya Muhammad, because Ibn Taymiyyah deemed that good in his book called Al-Kalim al-Tayyib. When he produced that report about Ibn Umar, that when that happened to him, Ibn Umar, he said, Ya Muhammad. This was after the Prophet's death. Ibn Taymiyyah deemed that good. The Wahhabis follow Ibn Taymiyyah and everything, but sometimes they disagreed with him, like here. Why they disagreed with him here? Because in their creed, that's shirk. But what they're going to do, they're going to tell you why Ibn Taymiyyah did not fall into shirk here, although if you did the same thing, you would fall into shirk. And what else they disagreed about Ibn Taymiyyah with? They disagreed about him with the permissibility of hanging some Quran or dhikr around the neck, written. Ibn Taymiyyah legalizes this in his book Idahu Dilala and in his book Majmu'ul Fatawa. But the Wahhabis, they consider it shirk. And despite this contradiction, yani the level of this contradiction, the enormity of this conflict here, yani what kind of dissonance is this? You know, it's the dissonance, is the internal conflict. Despite this dissonance, they call him the Shaykh of Islam. And they also call their leader, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, the Shaykh of Islam. But let's stop here and we can read this part from the top where he starts talking about the will. Any question?
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
You give us a proof about that thing dick around your neck or something, carrying it?
Proof for it?
Yes.
Yes. We went over the proof for that in How to Debate the So-Called Salafiyyah. I'll pull it up for you real quick. So, hanging words around one's neck for protection. At-Tirmidhi narrates the hadith from the route of Amr ibn Shu'aib from his grandfather, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "If one of you wakes up frightened, then let him say, I seek refuge with the perfect words of Allah, from his ghadab and his punishment, the evil of his slaves, from the whispers of the devil, and that the devil would afflict me." He said, and Abdullah ibn Amr used to teach it to his pubescent children, teach this dua to them. And whoever did not reach puberty among his children, he wrote it and hung it on their necks. So that's at-Tirmidhi's hadith. And it's a strong hadith. And inshallah, you have the proofs there. If you have a copy, you have the proofs.
Thank you, Shaykh.
You're welcome. Question: is it safe to say it sticks to those philosophers that they are claiming Allah has a nature? Yes. And thus is in need of one to give him that nature. Well, yes, that would be the case. Yes. Ameen wa fikum. That's exactly what they are saying, that he has a nature. They say Allah creates by nature, not by will. And what they mean is not that there's a creation called nature. They mean he has a nature himself. Yes, they say that. Yes. They say yakhluqu bi-tab', creates by nature. Ahlul Sunnah said, whoever confirms that the Creator has a choice denies that he creates by nature. Whoever denies that he creates by choice confirms that he creates by nature. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.